Hey everybody, welcome to the Dungeoncast. I'm Will.
I'm Brian.
This is the podcast where we talk about everything Dungeons & Dragons, from frozen flames to flaming fountains. And today we're talking about flail snails, and we're talking about Froghemoths. The Dungeoncast. Hey Brian.
Hey Will.
How you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. It's back.
It's the end of the year.
Froghemoth.
Oh yeah, it is back. But the last time we talked about Froghemoths was probably in the Bullywug episode?
Yeah.
Or the Dracolich episode, because you had the Dracolich.
That's right. The bones of Froghemoth.
Yes, exactly.
How are you today?
I'm doing good.
Yeah, good.
Doing pretty good.
Cool.
It's the end of the year, and a couple years ago, I decided to end the year on the most powerful D&D monster, the Tarrasque. Last year, I decided to end the year on one of the weakest and friendliest monsters, the Flumph. This year, we're going with two of D&D's weirdest monsters, Flail Snails and Froghemoths. And funnily enough, this fits the spirit of our Year of the Giant, since these two creatures are the biggest snail and the biggest frog in the game, respectively.
Yay.
So without further ado, let us detail these very odd and very D&D original monsters, starting with the Flail Snail.
I got one more to do, actually.
What's up?
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
I'm glad to be ending the year on this topic.
Yeah, I want to do something fun and whimsical. This episode's coming out the 27th, 28th, something like that.
It's up there, man.
Right at the end.
It's way up there.
So, what do you know about the Flail Snail?
I can make wild guesses, but nothing.
Okay, give me your best wild guess.
It's a snail, and he's a fucking light domain cleric, and he's got a flail, and he's gonna fucking murder you with his smites.
Well, I mean,
snail smites.
That's more accurate than it should be. The Flail Snail is a bizarre and somewhat whimsical creature. Not whimsical in behavior, but in appearance.
Yeah, its eye stalks are maces.
Yeah, true to its moniker, the Flail Snail is indeed a snail armed with natural flails that grow from its body.
Okay.
It is also notable. Notably a very magical being with natural anti-magic capabilities and alchemical properties.
Nice.
Though past editions have designated the creature as Fey in origin, creations of Fomorian arcane experiences, which I personally find quite fitting, 5e currently names the Flail Snail as a type of earth elemental.
Oh.
Which is kind of out of left field, but there's part of its lore that kind of like you could fit that to it. You'll see.
And like the anatomy of a snail in general, like you're very on the ground all the time.
You're very low to the ground.
You're in the dirt. You're eating dirt, right?
You never get higher than the ground.
They're pretty much just decomposition machines, as far as I know.
And this one mostly is too. So let's get into it.
Little mucus babies.
Flail snails are essentially gigantic snails with spiraling, scintillating, iridescent shells. In place of where eye stalks would be on a mundane snail, there are instead between 4 to 6 tentacles, typically 5. These tentacles have bald ends of hardened skin covered in spiky protrusions, basically flails.
Okay.
These flails are kept in constant motion, swaying slowly if the creature is calm or fast if it is agitated. This gigantic mollusk averages 8 feet in height at the crown of its shell. These creatures, said to be of elemental earth, are famed and highly sought after by hunters due to the fact that they produce a number of valuable resources, including their very colorful, scintillating shells that have inherent anti-magic properties and continue to grow large and heavy as the creature ages.
You're triggering someone's ASMR. Scintillating. Scintillating. They're very scintillating.
Indeed. Left undisturbed, a flail snail moves slowly along the ground, consuming everything on the surface, including rocks, sand, and soil, stopping to relish crystal growths and large mineral deposits. It eats rocks.
Yeah.
And the better the rocks, or the more expensive the rocks, the more it likes them.
Oh, okay. I didn't think it would differentiate based off that.
It likes crystals, it likes ore, it likes stones, it likes it all.
Okay.
It leaves behind a shimmering trail that quickly solidifies into a thin layer of nearly transparent substance inedible to the snail. I mean, no one eats their own shit, so I don't know why that inedible part needs to be in there, but it's in there.
Yeah, it's not like doing loop-to-loops on itself.
They made it very clear across multiple sources, it can't eat this. And I'm like, okay, I guess I'm adding it in.
Why does it matter? It must have come up so much.
Maybe. Well, this glassy residue can be harvested and cut to form window panes of varying clearness. It's glass. It shits glass.
That's horrible. I know it's probably fine for this thing, but the idea of anything shitting glass is just very jarring to me.
Yeah, no, it should be. It probably should be.
Thank you for validating me right now.
It can also be heated and spun into glass objects of other sorts. Some humanoids make a living from trailing flail snails to collect this glass.
Yeah.
Inexperienced flail snail hunters might be lulled into a false sense of confidence upon sighting this ponderous, seemingly non-hostile creature. But this can be a fatal mistake, for if any creature is openly hostile or simply large enough to be a threat to it approaches it, the snail unleashes a brilliant flash of scintillating light, then attacks with its mace-like tentacles in a bludgeoning frenzy. These things are also capable of screaming, both loudly and shrilly. So the horrifying image of a screaming blur of bloody maces can be the last image a foolish adventurer ever sees.
Yeah, can you imagine them getting like really, really negative about you like stealing their shit all the time and like trapping you? Like, we'll just shit a bunch right here, and when he walks in to get it, we'll yell at him.
We're gonna look at the stat block today. I think they're kind of dumb, so I don't think they're smart enough to do that.
I was wondering like how
intelligent they are. They're just giant snails, man.
Well, because they were like, I only like the rocks that are valuable. They're the bougiest snails I've ever seen. So
no, I think they just taste better.
Yeah. Okay. For some reason, money makes things taste better. That makes sense, because sometimes I go to steakhouses and I'm like, wow, really this much for some mac and cheese? And I'm like, it is good though.
Yeah, really exactly. Good.
Yeah, I think about it for years.
So flail snails like things warm and dark. They hibernate during winter, except in locations in which the season does not affect the availability of food, such as deep underground. Now, how does winter affect the availability of food to an animal that eats rocks?
I mean, if the ground is covered in... Okay, hang on a second. If this snail... I don't know the body anatomy composition of the snail, but if it gets too cold, won't it freeze? Because it is like very...
It does malleable. Like things warm and dark. But it says in... I think this is in 3. No, this is in 2nd edition that it says that they hibernate during the winter except for in locations in which the seasons does not affect the availability of food.
Snow? That's the only other thing.
Snow covers the rocks.
Ice on the ground.
Snow covers rocks, can't get to rock.
Yeah.
Can't eat rock.
Ice on ground, can't get to rock under ice.
Okay.
Froze to, like, you've licked a cold thing, right? And your tongue gets stuck to it, right?
Ooh, I like that. Okay, yes. Everything's sticky.
Yeah.
Because it's all so cold.
Snail get cold. Snails stick to cold surface.
Snail die.
Snail die.
Yeah, okay.
Snail die in cold. Snail starve. Snail can't shit. Artificer can't collect glass.
Yeah.
The economy is ruined.
Everyone loses.
If the snail goes out in the cold winter blizzard to fight Yeeties.
I feel so much better now about what I just read.
You're welcome.
They also tend to flee from overly bright lights as a leftover instinctual defense mechanism against desiccation by the sun, alluding to the fact that flail snails likely are descendants of their mundane cousins. Either way, sun does not actually hurt them. They're just afraid of it.
Right, which also makes sense because if there's snow on the ground, it's highly reflective.
That's true. There we go.
I'm fucking all over this.
This is fantasy physics right here.
This is fantasy physics. This is a preview of this thing on this other YouTube project I'm going to do.
So let's talk about flail snails' plethora of uncanny and magical abilities.
Okay.
Due to the immense slowness of their metabolism, along with the fact that it is designed to break down some of the toughest and most complex compounds found, flail snails are completely immune to poison.
Neat.
Furthermore, due to their thick shells and the coat of wet mucus that covers their bodies, they are also completely immune to fire.
Okay.
See, I told you the sun can't hurt.
So they have the markings of a very powerful monster.
Their challenge rating is higher than you think it would be.
Oh, not based off of this information.
Well, I mean, if you heard the name flail snail, you wouldn't think it was tough.
No, not off the bat. But after reading that they've got fucking 5 of those motherfuckers they're going to pound you into the ground with.
And that they scream at you as they kill you.
They scream and they can just eat rocks. Like, okay, that sounds pretty fucking powerful.
Okay.
They shit glass. I can't do that.
You raised some good points. All right. Fair. As I said before, a flail snail shell can emit an extremely bright, multicolored light. But this goes beyond being used as a simple stunning tactic on a would-be attacker. It can also be used to make it difficult for the creature to be physically targeted in the first place.
Okay.
I also said before that their shells are naturally anti-magical, making them extremely resistant to magic. Mm-hmm. If a flail snail is targeted by a magical attack, their shell can either reflect the attack back on the caster or convert the spell energy into a destructive blast of force, pummeling any creature near itself.
This is fucking cool.
Yeah.
What a cool
thing.
The
flail snail's fucking dope.
Yeah. I'm loving it.
Yeah. Flail snails also have limited regenerative abilities. If one of their tentacles is sufficiently damaged, the tentacle will shrivel and die. But if the snail lives on, it can regrow lost tentacles after only a few days.
Neat.
This remains possible as long as at least one tentacle remains intact. If all tentacles are killed, though, the snail will retract into its shell and begin crying out a loud wailing sound for several minutes until either it dies or it has its tentacles restored, such as the regenerate spell.
Okay.
The idea behind this is that the cry of a dying flail snail can potentially attract other monsters to the site. So you might, like, as adventurers trying to sneak through the Underdark, and you fucking do this, and like it sends an alarm that can bring drow and all kinds of beholders and all that nasty stuff, you might be like, oh shit, sorry, and regenerate it.
Yeah, farting is bad there, but like
screaming is worse.
Screaming is much worse.
Yeah.
Loud sounds are bad.
So it's a defense mechanism of bring me back to life now or suffer the consequences.
Yeah, that's the best. We just did a paladin episode last week.
Yeah.
The best anti-paladin is things with good hearing.
Yeah, exactly.
Paladins are the loudest motherfuckers on the planet.
It's true.
Okay.
A full-grown flail snail shell, say that 5 times fast, weighs about 250 pounds and has numerous uses for magical practitioners.
Hell yeah.
One intact shell can sell for 5,000 gold pieces.
That seems like a lot.
It is a lot. A skilled armorer can make 3 shields from one shell. For 1 month, each shield gives its wielder the snail's anti-magic shell trait. That's very powerful. And that's why it only lasts for a month, because it'd be too powerful if it didn't.
It's kind of sad.
When the shield's magic fades, though, it leaves behind an exotic shield that is the perfect item from which to make a spell guard shield. A flail snail shell can also be used to make a robe of scintillating colors. The shell is ground and added to the dye while the garment is being fashioned. The powder is also a material component of the ritual that enchants the robe.
That's cool. Mm-hmm. Okay,
so the Dragon Magazine 258 gets way too... Oh, God, I forgot about this. The Dragon Magazine 258 gets way too detailed into the mating ritual, and normally I would have left this out. But because I was forced to read this, I will now force you and the audience to hear this.
Are we about to learn about flail snails fucking?
Yep, we are.
You want me to read it? Or you want to read it?
I want you to absorb it, so let me read it.
All right, you dirty boy. Do it. Read me the
flail
snail
snails,
fuckery.
like most land-dwelling snails, are hermaphroditic, each creature manufacturing both eggs and sperm. They reproduce by exchanging packets of sperm cells with another partner through the genital pore, a small opening near the creature's head.
Of course.
Flail snails begin their mating ritual by circling each other, then rubbing their heads and feet together. Now, it says feet, and this led me to Google if snails have feet.
Yeah, feet's in quotes here.
Yeah. So I Googled whether snails have feet. It ends up the entire bottom of their body is called a foot. So their feet is each foot.
Yeah. Don't they have like little... There's something on the bottom of those.
Like their feet kind of like ripple.
Yeah, and they've got the ribbed like sort of edge.
Yeah, but the whole thing's a foot.
Yeah, anyway. It's one big slithering foot.
Okay, so the next part, and I quote, Love darts project from the creature's bodies and stab into each other, causing neither pain nor damage. Different snail species produce differently shaped love darts, which serves as a form of recognition for two snails involved to ensure they are not mating with an incompatible species. It also stimulates the snail's bodies, preparing them for the act of mating. A flail snail cannot produce sperm cells without first having sampled their intended mate's love dart. After mating is complete, each snail goes its own way, and the two may never meet again.
What are you laughing about? This is a mature topic.
This is a very beautiful act of love. It's true.
Especially since this basically mirrors the way I make love.
Fun fact. The Flail Snail was created in first edition, but has been rather scarce since then, only being released in one of the annual monster compendiums in second edition, being completely absent in third edition, having a single cameo appearance in a 4E adventure module as a stat block named the Stale Trail Flail Snail.
They're just fucking playing Calvin ball with this thing.
Yeah.
They're like, what if we just wrote a whole fucking paragraph about how it fucks? And it doesn't make any sense.
And the final fun fact about the Flail Snails, and this is pertinent because the Acerac episode was not that long ago. Unk, one of the 9 trickster gods of Chult we talked about in the Acerac episode, was a flail snail.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And now we could talk about the stat block, but I forgot to tell you to open Mordenkainen's or Vola's Guide.
Oh.
Or Mordenkainen's. It's in one of those. We'll find it.
Okay, we had to go get a book, but we got the book, and so I have the stat block for the flail snail, and I get to see a picture of this bad boy. Yeah, no eyes. Strange.
Yeah, it has tremor sense, though, so it's good.
Yeah, okay, we'll get into it. Flail snail is a large elemental of unaligned. Its armor class is 16 natural. Its hit points are 52, and its speed is 10 feet, which totally tracks.
Very slow.
Strength is +3, Dex -3, Con +5, Intelligence -4. It's a 3 intelligence. It's not good.
Yeah, that's real dumb.
Wisdom is a flat 0, and Charisma -3. It's no force of will. All right, so its damage immunities are fire and poison.
Like I said.
Condition immunity is poison. Just the main marker that you've crossed the high level threshold. Dark vision of 60 feet, tremor sense of 60 feet.
Now, how does it have dark vision? Does it have eyes? Because no anatomy I said had eyes.
No, there's no eyes in this photo, and like, what is dark vision then? Really?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Is it kind of like infrared, like where you can pick up other shit, and what is this?
Okay, it's supposed to be just black and white vision, but like night vision.
But from which sensory receiver?
I don't know, man.
Who knows?
Yeah.
I don't even want to guess right now. The challenge rating is 3.
Ooh, it's the perfect challenge rating.
It's the perfect challenge rating.
It's the boss of low levels. It's the mini boss of mid levels. It's the mob of high levels.
I can definitely see a pack of these slide down the wall.
Yeah.
And then you just got to salt them.
Yeah.
It's immune to poison, not seasonings. So the anti-magic shell. The snail has advantage on saving throws against spells, and any creature making a spell attack against the snail has disadvantage on the attack roll. If the snail succeeds on its saving throw against a spell or spell attack, if the snail succeeds on its saving throw against a spell or spell attack, misses it, an additional effect might occur as determined by rolling a d6. So on 1 to 2, the spell affects an area or has multiple targets. It fails and has no effect. If the spell targets only the snail, it has no effect on the snail and is reflected back at the caster.
Oof.
Using the spell slot, spell save DC, attack bonus, and spell casting ability of the caster. So it's a straight up mirror. 3 to 4, no additional effect, and 5 to 6, the snail's shell converts some of the spell's energy into a burst of destructive force. Each creature within 30 feet of the snail must make a DC 15 Constitution saving throw, taking 1d6 force damage per level of the spell on a failed save, or half as much damage on a successful one. This reminds me of a monster that is not canonical in the world of Super Quest Saga yet that I just used in a fight. I shouldn't even be talking about that.
I remember what you're talking about. Yeah. What I like about this is this is the perfect monster to throw at more of a newbie party that doesn't know anything about Flail Snail. So when that wizard throws that fireball, it's coming right back at them, and they're going to be like, "What do we do?"
No, the most powerful magics.
Yeah.
Okay, so flail tentacles. The snail, and this does have 5 eye stalks that don't have eyes, but just these flails. The snail. Oh, that reminds me. What's that panther thing? I always forget its name.
Displacer beast?
The displacer beast.
Yeah.
This looks like the displacer beast tentacles a little bit. They're like barbed on one side. This is obviously a ball at the end, but a similar idea here.
Yeah.
The flail snail has 5 flail tentacles. Whenever the snail takes 10 damage or more on a single turn, one of its tentacles dies.
Yep.
Okay. If even one tentacle remains, the snail regrows all dead ones within 1d4 days. If all tentacles die, the snail retracts into its shell, gaining total cover, and it begins wailing a sound that can be heard for 600 feet, stopping only when it dies 5d6 minutes later.
I'm going to look up total cover because I think that's actually devastatingly hard to hit something with total cover.
Total cover is pretty good. Healing magic that restores limbs, such as regenerate spell, can halt this dying process. So what's the deal here? Why are they detailing this? Is it because spellcasters or artificers, maybe artificers, are farming these things?
Yeah. If it's something valuable, it is loot. Don't forget that this is loot.
Right, yeah, this monster itself. So it's super dumb, super slow, and if you can corral this beast, then you can potentially have them mate, farm,
Flail Snail farm?
Well, that's the thing is why do they have all this information if this isn't what's going on with these guys? You have to know all this stuff for a reason.
Most people are hunting them and trailing them and then collecting their glass and stuff.
Why go through the trouble of that when you can farm them?
I imagine they're difficult to farm. Number 1, they're challenge rating 3. Number 2, they eat ground. They can just eat their way out of whatever.
Yeah. Well, I kind of pictured them more going over the earth than
they
going
do,
through it.
But if they let's say they're passing over and then they smell some gold or whatever, they're gonna dig down and
I'm not saying it's not a crazy somebody crazy powerful needs to corral these things, right?
I mean,
build
sure.
like a fort.
You could, absolutely.
You could do that.
So real quick, total cover, when you have total cover, you can't be targeted directly by an attack or a spell, although some spells can reach such a target by including it in an area of effect. Target with has total cover is completely killed by an obstacle. So if you get yourself in a situation where it does that, you can't kill it anymore until you got to wait it out to die.
Yeah.
But
interesting. I'm sure some player is gonna like try to. Well, what if I overturn the shell and then it's exposed like that? I don't think that's how that.
Maybe you got to be real strong. I suppose you could.
Yeah,
I would
how
allow
heavy
that.
is this thing?
Vary at least 300 or 400 pounds.
I would say it, and it's probably suctioning itself to the ground also. So maybe you can like dig up the ground beneath it and then chip away at that.
Yeah, maybe.
That's some doing is going to happen though.
Some doing needs to happen.
Some doing needs to happen. So let's move into the actions. We have multi-attack. The flail snail makes as many flail attacks as its flail tentacles, and all against the same target. So that tentacle is going to be a +5 to hit, a reach of 10 feet for one target. It's going to do 6 damage or 1d6 plus 3 bludgeoning. The scintillating shell recharges after a short or long rest. The snail shell emits dazzling colored lights until the end of the snail's next turn. During this time, the shell sheds bright light in a 30-foot radius and dim light for an additional 30 feet, and creatures that can see the snail have disadvantage on attack rolls against it. In addition, any creature within the bright light and able to see the snail when this power is activated must succeed a DC 15 wisdom saving throw or be stunned until the light ends. That's cool. And then shell defense. The flail snail withdraws into its shell, gaining a +4 bonus to AC until it emerges. It can emerge from its shell as a bonus action on its turn. Okay.
This thing is very troublesome to fight.
Yeah.
But in a fun way, I think.
Yeah, because like the 10 feet movement with the like sort of... You definitely don't want to be on top of this thing.
Yeah, you could definitely range it out. But, but can you because of the anti-magic spell?
It's
so
got
that's
all
going to
these
be arrows
protective
and
stuff. So
it just seems like arrows shouldn't be the thing to be able to take it out, but whatevs.
Well, it's got a lot of exposure on it. Like it outside of its shell, it in this picture, it is taller than its shell because of its stalks. But it's about as like the meat of its body is about as tall as its shell. So I think
plenty to hit.
Yeah, I think there's enough there to range it out. But if it's going to hide in its shell, like you're going to have a tough time.
Right.
You know, and then you're going to have to get up on it and then it's up on you. So there's a trade-off here, it seems. But that's it for the stat block.
All right. Well, then in that case, let's take a short rest. And we'll be back with some Froghemoths.
Ooh. Hey everybody, be sure to check out
Super Quest Saga, a future fantasy 5th edition D&D actual play podcast homebrewed and dungeon mastered by yours truly, me, and set in space.
And I play in it, along with your special guest Jake and friend of the show, Josh Freeland.
You can find it on YouTube, iTunes, or anywhere else you can get your podcasts.
Super Quest Saga!
Oh, we've returned.
Indeed, we have.
Fucking forgot.
And now that we're done with the biggest snail, it's time to move on to the biggest frog.
The biggest frog.
The Froghemoth.
Froghemoth. My boy.
We talked about the Froghemoth briefly in the Bullywug episode as they are loosely tied to the Society of the Frog Humanoids. But today we are doing a deeper dive, breaking out the stat block.
And it came up in the Lich episode, I'm pretty sure.
It's Draco Lich episode.
The Draco Lich episode.
This monster, much like the Flail Snail, existed in early editions of D&D, but disappeared from 3 and 4E for some reason. Maybe there was a pushback on the sillier monsters during D&D's teenage years. But now it's back and I love it. So, a Froghemoth is an amphibious predator roughly the size of an elephant. This huge and weird horror lurks in the darkest swamps and dankest subterranean pools. The Froghemoth's 18-foot long, 10-foot wide body is yellow on the belly, shading to a light green on its sides and a mottled green on its back and thick bowed rear legs. 2 tentacles sprout from each of its shoulders. The tentacles are 15 or more feet long, green on top and yellowish underneath. The creature's nostrils are long stalks protruding from its nose bridge, and its 3 bulbous eyes are housed on a protruding retractable appendage that can be withdrawn. They each face in a different direction, giving the monster excellent range of sight. Its eyes are amber with a green tinge and have vertical slit pupils of bright green edged with orange. When it is submerged, its tentacles trailing ashore and its eye and nostril stalks at water level, it appears to be nothing more than a plant growth of some sort.
Nice. This is cool
So
monster.
it's a big, scary monster with like whole weird anatomy.
that can appear out of nowhere in a swamp.
Indeed. Don't go in the swamps in D&D.
Yeah, I know. That's such a
place.
bad idea.
Black dragons, froghemoths, lizard folk, bullywugs, stay away.
It's a pretty bad idea to go into a swamp in general.
Yeah.
Especially unprepared.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So none know the true origin of the monstrosity, but some say that froghemoths are creatures not of this world. A journal purportedly written long ago by the wizard Lum the Mad describes strange cylindrical chambers of metal buried in the ground from which froghemoths first emerged, but no reliable reports of the locations of such places exist.
Couldn't find it again.
Nope.
Cool.
Found only where there are large swamps or relatively shallow bodies of fresh water containing large life forms that serve as prey, froghemoths are solitary except during spring mating season. Their movement in water is surprisingly rapid for such a hulking monster, their webbed rear feet kicking to thrust them forward. In more muddy marsh and swamp terrain, a froghemoth moves by lying on its belly and sliding along, propelled by rear legs and tentacles.
Neat.
On dry land, movement is by short vaulting hops. The tentacles thrust well ahead, the legs lifting the body forward and up.
God, can you imagine something built like this doing a jump of any kind?
Oh, it's scary.
My God, that's like an elephant doing a jump.
Oh, God. Do they? They don't, right? They can't.
Well, they do like, I don't know if they ever leave all four legs.
No way.
But they for sure pop up like a horse, like on two legs.
Yeah.
And that is scary.
That is scary in itself. That's a lot of weight.
There's a lot going on.
That's a lot going on.
I don't know if they do jumps. I don't know if they can physically
There's no way.
jump.
There's no fucking way.
I don't know.
I don't believe it.
I don't know. I don't know what elephants can and can't do.
A froghemoth is very likely the dominant predator in its home region. They kill and consume all that they please. Only very powerful creatures like dragons or well-equipped adventurers can hope to succeed against one.
Jeez.
Their strength and ferocity is such to make them undomesticatable. Even froghemoth tadpoles cannot be trained, but it may be possible to capture one and move it someplace where it can act as a vicious and somewhat unreliable guard animal.
Okay, sure. Yeah, just like chain it up and let it kind of go ham on whatever walks by.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
If any are said to have proven able to form a symbiotic relationship with the monsters, it would be the bullywugs. We did a whole episode on them, so if you want more, look up our bullywugs episode.
Yeah, please do. It's a fun one.
If a bullywug tribe comes across a froghemoth, the bullywugs are likely to view and treat the froghemoth as a god and do all they can to coax the monster into their den. A froghemoth can be sated after a fashion by offering it food, and bullywugs can communicate with it on a basic level, so the creature might only eat a few bullywugs before following the rest.
I've been eating you guys, but you're kind of cute.
You're actually kind of cool.
Yeah.
Bullywugs gather food as tribute for it, provide it with a comfortable lair, fanatically protect it from harm, and try to ensure that any young froghemoth reaches maturity.
Okay.
So they just take care of it.
Yeah.
It lives the easy life.
They're responsible big monsters.
Indeed. Rather than laboriously detail out the mating ritual of froghemoths like the flail snail, D&D instead just can't agree with itself on the way in which froghemoths do copulate. Some sources say that once every 9 years, froghemoths return to their spawning ground to mate with others of their ilk. In late spring, females lay only 10 to 100 eggs of about 1 foot in diameter. These eggs are left in shallow water, and when the tadhemoths hatch, about 90% are eaten by their earlier hatching fellows or by other predators. The few survivors search for deeper waters to grow in for a period of 3 years to adulthood. Survival rate is low. Other sources say that froghemoths lay a single fertile egg every few years without ever mating. The froghemoth cares nothing for its egg and might even eat the hatchling. A young froghemoth's survival is often predicated on its parent leaving it behind in indifference. A newborn froghemoth grows to full size over a period of months by indiscriminately preying on other creatures in its swampy domain. So you already see the inconsistency here.
Yeah.
Completely different way of birth and different lifespan because it got to full growth in a month versus 3 years.
Is this the issue of crossing over additions and then?
Yeah,
Okay.
This is what happens, man. It learns to hide its enormous body in murky pools, keeping only its eye stalk above the water to watch for passing creatures. When food comes within reach, the froghemoth erupts from its pool, tentacles and tongue flailing. It can grab several targets at once, keeping them at bay while it wraps its target around another one and pulls it in to be devoured.
This is like the meat version of the shambling mound.
Kinda, yeah.
It feels like that, where
Similar.
it just kind of appears. It's a big bush.
Yeah.
This one is just a big frog.
Yeah, it's
This is a much more. It's
giant
misleading
ambusher.
to just call it a big frog, right?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, it's frog-like.
Froghemoth. It's more like a what
It's
kind
a
of monster
frog.
is this?
It's a frog-to-puss alien.
Yeah, an alien would be a good depiction. I didn't want to say old one because like there are tentacles here, but
It's not an old one.
No,
it's just a big
it's
squid.
just a big meat monster with tentacles.
Yeah.
And a tongue, a nasty tongue,
and a big old mouth.
That tongue does look like a Displacer Beast tentacle, like almost.
Oh, it does.
the T.
I see it from here, yeah. The only treasure a Froghemoth might have is that dropped by hapless victims. Most prey is slain and devoured away from the monster's lair, which is usually a submerged collection of trees and debris. Normal hunting attack modes are from ambush, which we've pretty much talked about before. The monster will float with its body submerged, retractable eye stalk thrust up to its full height to just break water, nostril stalks likewise, and the 4 tentacles thrust ahead, possibly near a shore, to seize unwary victims.
Nice.
It's kind of like the monster outside of the Mines of Moria. Except for that was like a kraken. But like same deal where it was like in the water, just waiting for someone to come by, and then when they did, tentacles come flying out.
I mean, I get the picture for sure. Do I understand the reference? No.
You've never seen Lord of the Rings?
Oh shit!
Yeah.
No, okay, never mind. Like you hit like
Sorry,
a wall, and
sorry.
now Brian has walked around the wall of his own mind.
Okay, you know the
And
part I'm
yes,
talking about?
Yes, I do know the part where they're doing the rune thing on the.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Yes, I've seen Lord of the Rings.
Another ambush mode is for the monster to crouch amid shielding vegetation, and when prey comes within range, it thrusts its head forward and lashes out with its 10-foot-long barbed tongue and captures prey. The tongue retracts instantly, dragging the victim into its toothy maw to be swallowed whole.
Sweet.
So, have a strangely related, I didn't plan this by the way, but strangely related fun fact. Just like the flail snail, one of the 9 trickster gods of Chult, Kubazan, was a Froghemoth before being murdered by Asarak.
Damn you, Asarak.
Yeah. And I just love how it all tied together. It's great.
Cholt. The name Cholt is like offensive to me for some reason.
Why?
I don't know. It's just a strange word. It's
I mean,
a strangely
it is.
built word.
I like it.
Yeah, you can like it if you want.
All right, well, let's talk about the Froghemoth stat block because I'm looking at it. It's so big.
I'm
so
on the
long.
fence. Yeah, the frog, it's almost as long as the flail snail one. It's a huge monstrosity, unaligned, armor class 14 natty armor with 184 hit points. It's got 30 feet of move and swim, and if you are in this thing's home turf, the swamp, it's going to swim circles around you. Strength is +6, dexterity +1, con +5, intelligence -4. That's a 2, baby.
It's dumber than the flail snail.
Dumber than the fucking snail. It seems to have more receptors, like
sensory
receptor. Yeah. Wisdom.
Less brain though.
Less. No place for brain. Only place for meat. Wisdom +1 and charisma -3. Makes sense. It's got saving throws +9 con, +5 wisdom. Skills are +9 perception, +5 stealth. Damage resistance to fire and lightning. Why lightning? Seems strange, but okay.
Yeah.
And then senses are dark vision 60 feet. Who knows what that even means anymore. And passive perception 19. Very good. So yeah, hiding in the swamp, you're going to get ambushed by this thing for sure.
Yeah.
No languages with the challenge rating of 10. We're talking, it's amphibious, which is the Froghemoth can breathe air and water, that's what that means. Shock susceptibility. If the Froghemoth takes lightning damage, it suffers several effects until the end of its next turn. Its speed is halved. It takes -2 penalty to AC and dexterity saving throws. And it can't use reactions or multi-attack, and on its turn, it can use either an action or a bonus action, but not both. So it's resistant to lightning, but if you hit it with lightning, a bunch of bad shit happens to it.
Yeah.
This is really weird to have it also resist the damage. Maybe it's I don't know why I would do that. Why would you resist it?
I don't know.
And then have it also do this. Okay, it eats the damage, and then its like nerves get all weird.
Yeah.
Sure, and the damage gets fucking whatever. Actions, multi-attack. The Froghemoth makes 3 attacks, 2 with its tentacles and 1 with its tongue or bite. Tentacle is the melee attack +10 with 20 feet of reach. One target, sorry. The hit is going to do 19 or 3d8 +6 bludge. And the target is grappled. Escape DC 16 if it is a huge or smaller creature. Now, until this grapple ends, the Froghemoth can't use its tentacles on another target, and the Froghemoth has 4 tentacles. Bite, melee weapon attack +10 to hit, reach of 5 feet, 1 target, 22 damage or 3d10 +6 piercing damage. And the target is swallowed if it is a medium or smaller creature. That's horrible.
This thing's a monster.
You get attack on Titan. A swallowed creature is blinded and restrained, has total cover against attacks and other effects outside the Froghemoth, and takes 10 3d6 acid damage at the start of each of the Froghemoth's turn.
You start to get digested by the acid?
Absolutely, because what else is going to happen in there? And you're going to be able to wreak havoc from within it. But the Froghemoth's gullet can hold up to 2 creatures at a time. If the Froghemoth takes 20 damage or more on a single turn from the creature inside it, the Froghemoth must succeed on a DC 20 con save
To not regurgitate.
at the end of that turn, or regurgitate all swallowed creatures, each of which falls prone in a space within 10 feet of the Froghemoth. If the Froghemoth dies, a swallowed creature is no longer restrained by it and can escape from the corpse using 10 feet of movement, exiting prone. So you gotta crawl out of there. That's cool.
So I'm not sure how much you remember, but in the first D&D adventure I ever put you guys through, you guys had to go into a swamp pretty early. And I know you guys had a hard time with the Kelpie, and that was a great encounter.
Yeah, especially me.
Especially you. But having a Froghemoth just bust out of nowhere and you guys having to run for your lives, I wish I had done that.
That would be pretty cool. Yeah, we did fight a Kelpie. I did lose a sword that I wrote way too much backstory about. But first D&D game.
Yeah.
That must have been fun to see players dealing with anything for the first time.
Yeah, the Kelpie was great because I not only did I know you guys didn't see it coming, but it wasn't detailed in the monster manual, so I had to make it up myself.
That's definitely something like this. But with the challenge rating 10, it's probably not going to be new players.
No, I would have made you guys have to run for your life.
Yes, this is a fail state boss fight.
But
for sure.
the idea of this giant mouth tentacled monster that you've never seen or heard because you're new players, you have no idea what the fuck this is.
Never heard of Froghemoth.
Yeah, that would have been so much
stuff
fun.
of nightmares.
It is.
We got the tongue. The Froghemoth targets one medium or small creature that it can see within 20 feet of it. The target must make a DC 18 strength saving throw. On a failed save, the target is pulled into an unoccupied space within 5 feet of the Froghemoth, and the Froghemoth can make a bite attack against it as a bonus action. Well, that's a cool combo. It's like a lightning lure into a strike.
It's like a frog eating an insect.
It's like a what's the druid one? The vine.
Thorn whip?
It's like a thorn whip into a shillelagh strike.
Yeah, sure. We'll go with that.
Whatever.
All right. I think it's time for our long rest.
It is. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the long rest. Just me, Brian, here this time. We'll have to go to work, so I'm going to go ahead and close it out. It's a shame he's not going to get to see me in my incredibly slow slippies. They are very magically resistant, though. Druid tried to get wise with me out there, cast a moonbeam, blasted him right back at him. So cool. Problem is, though, it's eating up all my carpet, and there's glass all over my house. My slippies are just eating my carpet and shitting glass. Anyway, thanks for listening to the episode. It's been a crazy year. This is it. You're the big guy. It's over. I can't believe it. I'm so sad, but it will live on in our hearts. We have a lot of great things planned for next year, including next year's theme, which you'll find out next Sunday what it is. Tune in for that. And if you're on Patreon, you already know, probably, if you're listening to our show called the Dungeoncast. That's this show. I meant the Dungeon Chats. The Dungeon Chats is a show. Me and Will are pretty much going to do it every time we sit down to record, which is every 2 to 3 weeks. We try to get a recording session in. We're planning a few more here and there to work on some YouTube projects that we have kind of going. So there are going to be a lot more of them. I have one that I'm going to put up pretty soon. That's at $5 a month, folks. If you want to get in at $5 a month on Patreon, it's one of the best ways to financially support us. You can jump in there, get all your episodes early for the Dungeoncast, get an extra podcast called the Dungeon Chats, and you get a bunch of live plays that we did called Vault Raiders. And we've got a new one coming out pretty soon before the end of the year. So hopefully it's already up there. Anyway, there are lots of other tiers you can support us at on Patreon for even more bonus content and exclusive merch like stickers and mugs with cool, unique art on them that you can't get in our merch shop. If you want to get some TDC merch, though, you can jump down below. There's like a link down there. There's all kinds of stuff, man. Watch Super Quest Saga. Check out our other videos on YouTube like DD5. We're going to have more of those coming out, and we're going to have more stuff coming out on YouTube. So be sure to check out our YouTube channel, hit the subscribe. I think by the time this episode airs, we've crossed 30,000 subscribers, which is insane. So thank you guys so much. We really, really appreciate it. And thank you to everybody that listens to the show on podcasts. You're the bulk of our audience. There's a ton of you out there, and we wouldn't be the show we are without you and all of your support. Like I said, it's been a great, wonderful year. I'm really looking forward to all of the cool stuff that we have planned for next year, and we hope you guys stick around for enjoying this Dungeoncast wave, this Dungeoncast ride. So yeah, thank you very much. That's where I'm going to call it, because I can call it whatever I want, because Will's not here, and we usually just call it where it feels natural, and that's now. Okay, bye. Bye.
Dungeoncast.